it. No, let's just go ahead and start now.
Okay.
Ready? Okay.
Yep.
Hi, and welcome to this presentation of Proposal 2. It's about voting integrity, or in this case, lack thereof. I'm Barbara Harrell, and I'm the president of the Michigan Republican Assembly. And the assemblies were started in the 30s by Ronald Reagan in California. We're the Republican wing of the Republican Party and the conservative conscience of the Republican Party. We are both fiscal and social conservatives, and we support the platform and the Constitution. That's just a little bit about us. And now I would like to ask David if you would please give us an invocation for our time together tonight.
Sure. Father, I thank you for this day. I thank you for your love for us, for your guidance. Pray that you would help us as we learn more about Proposal 2 and the dangers that it presents to us, and help us to understand and be able to present this information to those we come in contact with to hopefully defeat this terrible proposal. And pray, Father, that you would just bless our time together tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Now I'd like to just let Jeff Litton give his presentation. He is the executive director of Secure MI Vote in Michigan. They led the petition drive that we just had, and he can tell you more about himself and more about this proposal. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Barb. And thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to speak today and to see everybody's faces as we're getting ready to 33 days, I think it is, till Election Day. So we're almost there. So it's really exciting. We're getting there. And I'm glad to be able to talk about Proposal 2 and the dangers that this proposal offers to our state and really our country as a whole, because of how much we know Michigan plays in the national politics. So I fundamentally believe that if Proposal 2 passes, Michigan will never have a free, fair, or safe, secure election again. Unfortunately, there are many things that happen that are in this proposal that are going to make it so there are questions that are asked, and that pretty much it opens the door for issues. So I'm going to share one slide here for everybody so they can see just the summary of it, and I'm going to go over these points. So as long as everybody can see that. So the first thing that this proposal will do, is it will make it so it's in our Constitution that no voter ever has to show an ID to vote. So unfortunately, the proponents of this proposal have been running TV commercials that say that this puts voter ID into our Constitution. That is a flagrant lie. That is horrific. I'm so upset about how they are trying to trick voters into thinking that what they're putting into the Constitution is voter ID, because this will put in the Constitution that anybody can show up and they do not have to show an ID to cast a legit ballot. This is not voter ID. This is opening up to so many issues because of the signed statement is what this proposal will allow. And it just is so, it's lying. They are lying to the people saying that this is voter ID, and it's upsetting. The second thing that this is going to put in our Constitution, remember, this is a constitutional amendment. That means it is permanently changing the Constitution to completely alter our election laws. This is going to allow any private individual, billionaire, corporation, or special interest to donate to any local clerk with expecting a potential quid pro quo when the results of our elections are on the line. So say this goes back to 2020, where Mark Zuckerberg donated hundreds of millions of dollars to clerks across the country. And this is going to put it in the Constitution that will be constitutionally legal in the state of Michigan. And I try to let people know that it's not just Mark Zuckerberg or the left that can do this. The right can do this too. People don't want just billionaires and special interests coming in, donating money to our clerks that are running our elections and saying, well, here's $10 million. I hope you use it this way. we know they're going to kind of have to use it that way. And then the third thing that is big on this proposal is that it could allow incarcerated felons the opportunity to vote, which would make Jackson State Prison the largest precinct in our state. And it would make it so the murderer that just murdered a 14-year-old girl, that murderer has the right to vote even when they're in prison. But the 14-year-old girl, she doesn't. She'll never have the right to vote. But that murderer can vote on the county prosecutor that just prosecuted them, the county sheriff that arrested them, the judge that sentenced them. They'll have the right to vote in those situations. This is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this proposal. There are so many other things that are in this proposal that people don't fully understand. And the unfortunate part is when you get your ballot, if you're voting by absentee, or you go in to vote on election day, November 8th, the first line you read on proposal 2 is let's not harass voters. Of course, nobody wants to harass a voter. No, nobody would want to harass a voter. But these things are hidden in that rest of that 100-word summary, or they're just not even included in the 100-word summary because that 100 words actually summarizes 6 pages of legal jargon that is going to be added to our Constitution. So there's other things some other concerns that I like to bring up. The 9 days of early voting. If you are in Southeast Michigan, where you're in a suburban community that has a clerk that has an office, and that's possible, that maybe they could make that work. Maybe they could make it so it's an efficient process. But how can we expect someone up in Menominee County in the UP that has 1,000 voters in their entire precinct, and their clerk operates out of their garage, and we are expecting them to run 9 days of early voting in a safe and secure environment? It's putting undue burdens on our clerks that is going to make it so it's allowing more questions to be asked. Instead of finding the solutions that we are trying to make, whether you look at 2000, 2004, 2016, 2020, both sides of the political aisle are asking questions about our election results. And it's unfortunate that this proposal and this constitutional amendment is going to make it so more questions can be asked. Instead of finding the solutions to actually make it so we have faith and trust in our process, we're just opening the door to more issues. Our country is determined on the faith of our election system. Our elections is what makes our country a phenomenal constitutional republic. We are the greatest experiment this world has ever seen. But unfortunately, if this proposal passes, people will lose faith in our election system, and that greatest experiment could fail. And it's detrimental to our state to see something like this be on the ballot this fall and to be possibly changing our process of elections forever because it's a constitutional amendment. So I'm asking everybody to do as much as they can to let their friends, their neighbors, their members at church, in their congregation, maybe your coworkers, or when you go to your bowling league, or any aspect of your networks, letting people know about this proposal. Proposal 3 has gotten so much attention that so many people don't even know that this proposal is on the ballot. I've been going door to door at different communities, and people say, I didn't even know there was a proposal 2. And then I let them know, and they say, how could this be allowed on the ballot? This is so important that we get the word out. Secure My Vote is doing what we can on the aspect. Unfortunately, it does take a lot of funding to be able to go up against some of these. As this TV commercial that Promote the Vote is running, it's $1 million buy because they seem to be running every half an hour. When I watch the local news, it seems like it runs once, which has the flagrant lies, and it's upsetting. But their money that they're bringing is all from out of state. It comes from an organization that's funded out of DC that is just trying to influence our elections. So we need fund. If anybody has the ability to give any funding, that would be a great asset and would be very much appreciative in this fight. We have literature at most county GOPs have literature for you if you want to hand out, as well as you can always reach out to info@securemivote.org. That's our email, and we can connect you with things. We're doing letters to the editor. We're doing a lot of this stuff. I know there's some campaign stuff that's up on radio now that some people have said that they've heard on WJR and some other news sources. So that's getting out there. We're doing some digital work. Emails, you can sign up for our email list if you're not on our emails from our website, and getting that stuff. It's info@securemivote.org. So I saw your question there in the chat.
Okay.
So that's mostly what Proposal 2 is about. I'm happy to take any questions because I know that a lot of people usually have questions about it, and I feel as though it's a lot more able to, if you have questions, I can expand on things. Yes, there are yard signs are about to be finished in the next, I'm hoping I can pick them up in about 48 hours, and they're going to be distributed in the next 5 to 7 days. It's just how long we can get them out and fast we can get them to the places across the state.
Jeff, where are you located? I don't volunteer there all the time, but I'm usually at the Wayne County Victory office with Pauline and Leslie. I met you the one day when you brought us in the cards. If it would be easier, I can meet up with you and even get the signs.
So I have it on my schedule to get down to that Taylor Victory Center and the next early next week with signs, because it's going to be a couple hundred signs, because I'm going to Livonia before that and the East Side Republican Club.
You cut out.
I've got because I'm in Oakland County, so that's not that far of a drive for me. So
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I have a
question.
Yeah, Barb.
You mentioned the DC groups that are funding this. Well, two questions actually. The DC group that's funding that, is there a person or an entity mostly behind that?
So 1630 Fund, George Soros and other individuals that do stuff that donate to these type of causes. Unfortunately, you can't get all of their donor data with their organization, but that is, we do know from all of the Promote the Vote's previous filings with the Secretary of State, the 1630 Fund is their number one donor that has pretty much funded their entire organization. I don't think they haven't really taken any, from the last filing that I've seen, they haven't really taken any small donations from any Michiganders. It's all people from either DC, or there was if I remember right, there was an Oklahoma couple that donated like a couple 100,000.
Wow, they're messing with our elections. And like you said, it's going to influence everything. The other question I had is, what is the background? Somebody asked about how this got on the ballot. What is the background of how this was written and how it got on the ballot? Because I understand there were some problems with it.
Yeah, so unfortunately, when Secure My Vote was out collecting signatures, and thank you for everybody that was collecting signatures for Secure. We are before the Secretary of State. It is Secretary of State Benson is sitting on it. We turned in 514,000 signatures. So it is there. We're waiting for her to move on it, where we have to wait for a certain amount of time before we can take action, like agreed upon time. And that's most likely going to be around election day-ish is when that agreed upon time finishes. So we're going to see what happens there. And then, so about 2 months into us circulating, this organization that sponsored Proposal 2 has decided to do their own proposal, because they were scared of our changes, even though our changes were supported by 80% of people in Michigan that wanted to see good reforms that were just bipartisan reforms. But they decided to do this proposal and this amendment. They weren't collecting that much. They were out there. They were doing what they needed to, and then they actually tacked on to the abortion amendment and got people that signed the abortion amendment, and they also signed this amendment. So they had people sign both at the same time, right after one after another, and they were able to get about 600,000 signatures that way. And they submitted them to the Secretary of State. She verified them and stuff, and then it went to the Board of Canvassers, and it actually deadlocked because of this incarcerated felon part. So how this is potential to, it depends on how the courts rule about it, but we know that once this happens, it's going to be.
Uh-oh, you cut out again, Jeff.
It says you cannot pass any law, the legislature cannot pass any law that restricts a qualified elector from being able to vote. And that qualified elector, our Michigan Constitution, Article 2, Section 1 defines what a qualified elector is. That qualified elector, then Article 2, Section 2 gives the legislature the ability to limit incarcerated felons and mentally incapacitated individuals from voting. If this amendment passes, there is a good chance that because it defines qualified elector in Article 2, Section 1, that it would completely remove Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution. We brought this argument to the Board of Canvassers, saying people did not know this. They did not include this in the amendment language on the back of the petition. And legally, you are required to, on the back of your petition, put any law that's going to change. Anything that will change in the Constitution if you're doing an amendment, and if you're not doing an amendment, any Michigan combined law that's going to change has to be on the back of your petition. So we said they left this off. This is going to happen if this passes, and this Article 2, Section 2 will be removed. So this, people did not know what they were signing. The Board of Canvassers deadlocked. We had two of them support and said, this is true, like what they're doing. And then the sponsoring organization sued to the Michigan Supreme Court. And unfortunately, the Michigan Supreme Court did some judicial activism and said, we don't care. They didn't rule on if this was the case. They just said, that's not a problem that the Board of Canvassers should worry about. This should go to the ballot. This was judicial activism by the Supreme Court, and which is why it's very important that you know to look up who's running for Supreme Court, because it is just as important that that's on the ballot this fall. But this, and then that is how it got on the ballot.
And a good segue to that, I would add, is that incumbent Supreme Court Justice Brian Zara and newcomer to the court, hopefully Paul Hudson, are the two conservative Republicans that are running for the state Supreme Court. So,
and Brian ruled against what the court did with this amendment. So I was very thankful for him being a constitutionalist.
Yeah, he's solid, but they're getting to be outnumbered now. So, oh my. David, did you have a question?
Yeah. So I heard a couple things brought up as potentially being affected here. One being that the Secretary of State will not have to like clear out the dead voter rolls and stuff like that, or is that just not part of this at all?
That's not really part of this. I know there's some suits going on with that and other reasons that's in the news. And the legislature did just pass something to get them to clear off dead voters. That's not really in this. One thing that is in this that a lot of people don't realize is the auditing process of our elections completely changes. That only election officials, only the Secretary of State's office and clerks will be able to audit elections, and nobody can question anything. So pretty much even if there is flagrant fraud that is shown in a case, whatever the clerk provides the Board of Canvassers for that county or the state, they just have to rubber stamp it. They can't question anything with this amendment. This would make it so you can never question a result.
Oh my.
Wow.
Mike has a question, Jeff. Wants to know where we can find the proposal language.
Yeah, so the proposal language is on the Michigan SOS's the Secretary of State's website under the Board of Canvassers page. I'm also going to add it to our website. I'm updating in the next couple of days some resources and stuff so people have more information as well.
Okay. And what
So
your website again is?
securemivote.org.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have a question?
yeah, so in the horrifying event that this ends up passing, is there any way we could fight it?
The biggest fight, we'll have to do a constitutional amendment ourselves to get rid of some of this stuff and go through that whole process again, which
Well,
is not an easy process. It's a lot harder than a lot of people saw. And I mean, Secure My Vote took months and months. And even with hundreds and hundreds of volunteers collecting signatures, which I was thankful for, it still took a long time and still the process. And you have to get funders and you have to get people that are dedicated and into it and to get it done. And that is going to be an option that we'll have to evaluate, but I'm hopeful that that will not be the case, that we can beat it on November 8th.
Yeah, no kidding. I have a question too, just to clarify. You said the Secure MI petitions and they're sitting on it till the election. What would that accomplish if it went forward? What's the possible scenario for that?
So if proposal 2 fails and then the Secretary of State releases Secure My Vote and it passes and the legislature passes it like they're ready to on day one, it'll change a couple of our laws to make it so there can't be any private funding of our elections into the clerk's offices. The Secretary of State cannot mass mail absentee ballot applications. It will require a photo ID with no exceptions to vote. To cast your ballot, you have to show an ID, which is why so many of these things that they're trying to change are opposite of that. And as you can see right here, that David just shared, thank you, that first line, recognize fundamental right to vote without harassing conduct. Most people, if they don't know what's actually in this amendment, they would see it and say, oh, that's okay.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any questions? And or
that
something?
I'm still
Nobody?
wrapping my head around all this, and I'm kind of new at the inside workings of the political world. There's nothing that could have been fought with this, like I know state and federal, it's two different things, but there's nothing that like can be deeming this like unconstitutional or some sort of like.
There's a potential. I mean, it has to pass before you can take it to court on like a federal level. So there's always, I mean, I know our lawyers will look at will really evaluate and see and stuff for the afterwards, but I mean, that's not the focus right now.
Right.
Who
Yeah.
are
No,
your
I was
attorneys?
just wondering how that worked.
Yeah.
You have attorneys on staff working now?
Yeah, we have some.
Like-
I mean, our attorneys that drafted our language and all of that. We've got some from Dickinson Wright that are pretty good. That are election experts and law experts in Michigan and stuff. So.
Excellent. Okay. Okay, good. Oh man, this could be horrendous, but at least there's some hope if it passes that we could take it higher. This is why judges are important. This is why all of this, it works together, is so important to get right. Anyone else that you can think of? Anything you want to ask Jeff? He's a wonderful resource. Pardon me? David, you say something?
I was going
Oh,
what I was going to say
Okay.
is that if anybody is upset by government spending, another thing that's on here is that we now have to pay for all the postage for every single absentee ballot.
Yep, return postage and state-funded absentee ballot drop boxes for municipalities that have more than 15,000 residents. They will have to have state-funded drop boxes in their municipality. It takes away local control there as well.
This gets worse and worse. It's like peeling an onion. There's layers of it, and it just gets, oh my.
Yeah. There's so much in this amendment that people don't realize is in this. And it's scary.
I personally think this is the worst one that's on the ballot.
Oh, they're all bad. The abortion one's very bad too, because that involves the gender identification and the pronouns and all that stuff.
Oh yeah,
parental knowledge. This one
scares me.
This one's a long-term problem for our state and for our country that can really completely alter so much.
And now I just want to put something out there. I know most of you on here, and I know there's a lot of different houses of worship, churches actually represented here. Have any of you spoken to your pastors about both the proposals, for that matter, and even one if you want, and about how maybe the issue can be addressed? These aren't candidates, and I know there's ways you can do it without jeopardizing their tax status. Has any of you spoken with your pastors about this, or met with them privately, or like we at Grace Baptist in Birmingham have a community impact team table where we can put information about this? We have and will continue to up until election. Anybody else have anything like that or spoken with your pastoral staff?
I've spoke to my pastor. He's really pushing the no on 3 thing right now. I'm gonna talk to him. I'm trying to get him to do this one also. I mean, his main focus is the abortion one. I'm Catholic, so that's a huge no.
Yeah, the Catholics are really getting it done on the proposal 3. That's for sure.
Yeah. He's really really going to the full extent of, like, you know, in every single bulletin every week, he's got like a little blip in there. So
maybe access the Secure MI vote too, and get bullet points and things to put in his hand about what this will do about voting being messed up forever. Free and fair elections, you can kiss them goodbye. And maybe if he saw bullet points, he would mention something about that or find a way to do it. And I'm going to say to church, pray that eyes be open, pray that discernment rules, that we can have the republic we were given and so many fought and died for, with election integrity. This is insidious, and I'd stretch to say demonic even, what's happening. Pray that George Soros gets saved. Wouldn't that be fun? Anyway, but I'm just pray, church, and work, put feet on your faith, and do something within the bounds of what, your pastoral staff would allow, but talk with them. I just encourage you all to do that if you haven't already. But anyone else have anything to ask Jeff while we're here? Anyone? I'm trying to keep my eye on the chat too. There's nothing there that we haven't addressed. Anyone? Going once? Going twice? Okay. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for everything you've shared with us, everything you've done and you're doing, and you're probably going to keep doing. Appreciate it. And just everybody know that this is being recorded. And when it's ready, it will be on our website, which is www.michiganra.org, as well as our Facebook page, just Michigan Republican Assembly. So feel free to share, get the word out to your like-minded friends. And this is so important, but you know that. Anyhow, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I appreciate it. We all just have so much discretionary time, and we're working for our candidates and trying to right this listing ship of state. And thank you so much for all that you do and everybody that you can influence. So thank you very much again, Jeff, and good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night, everybody.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.
Bye.